welcome to another episode of the Jason Show. We're happy to have Nellie Akalp with us. She is the CEO at Corpnet.com. Well, first of all, Nellie, hello and welcome.
Thank you for having me, Jason. Hello.
Yeah, well, we've got an important topic to talk about. It's always been an important topic, but especially during COVID, and I think it's going to continue even in the post-pandemic world of people working all over the place. And how do you deal with multi-state compliance or people moving around and that sort of thing? So that's our topic today. My first question, though, Nellie, is always, it's two parts. It's going to be to ask you to tell us a little about yourself, kind of the stereotypical opening question. And after that, I'll ask you about Corpnet.com. But let's start with you first. Tell us a little about yourself.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you again for having me on your show. What an honor to be here. And my background is entrepreneurship. I'm an entrepreneur and went to law school, decided practicing law was kind of not in my wheelhouse. And right out of law school, my husband and I started a company which was in the area of legal document filings and assisting small business owners, CPAs, accountants, lawyers with everything they needed to start a business and keep it in compliance, including incorporating that business, forming an LLC. And fast forward to today, 30 years later, I'm still doing the same thing with my current company, Corpnet. And, I'm a passionate entrepreneur, mother of four. I run our company with a large group of fascinating people that I call every one of them entrepreneurs, and we do what we love, which is helping others and professionals like yourself help their clients when it comes to all the legal requirements in starting a business and keeping a business in compliance. I'm also a large contributor to a variety of different outlets, including Accounting Today, Forbes, Inc., Small Business Trends, All Business. So you can see a ton of my content all around the internet. And I write very, very frequently. And oftentimes you'll see about 23 to 25 publications a month from me on the various different accounting outlets and business outlets.
Wow, well, it's great to have you with us today. Tell us a little about Corpnet, then. What is it that Corpnet.com does?
So at Corpnet, our mission is to really simplify the business filings process for the end user, whether it be an accountant or CPA representing a client or the client themselves. And what we do is we offer the most comprehensive, cost-effective services when it comes to starting a business, incorporating, forming an LLC, state tax registrations, including payroll, tax account setup, sales account setups, sales tax account setups, and we offer our services in all 50 states. In addition, we have an amazing partner program whereby specifically geared towards the accountant, the financial professional, the business professional representing a client, whereby they can partner with us and either resell our services to their clients as their own or refer their clients to a trusted resource whereby we can assist the client with all aspects of their business filings needs in all 50 states.
All right, so our topic today is payroll. I have to pull it up and read it here. It's payroll and sales tax registration, what to know with remote employees across various states. And this is something that I perceive anyway as a lot of accountants may not think about when they have people moving around. And I guess there's two ways you could look at it. One is if you're a W-2 employee and you're moving around, I mean, that's the company's problem, I guess. But it's also a potential problem for accountants who maybe handle that payroll, or the one person S Corp with the owner of the S Corp who moves around themselves. I actually have a question slash story about that a little later. We'll wait just a little bit to get to that. I mean, this is a big deal, I guess, isn't it? I mean, let's just start with that. This is something that
Well, I'll tell you,
it's
it's
a
a
big
really
deal.
big deal. Yeah, it's a really big deal. And it actually really just changed the whole makeup of our company once COVID happened. And it took us from a 10-person company to 150% company that we are today, and
Wow.
still growing and still trying to find talent because we're still shorthanded. But this idea of, with the onset of COVID and even, the aftermath of COVID, a lot of businesses have decided to stay remote. At first, when COVID happened, people started going remote. And now, with the COVID kind of plateauing and kind of equalizing, people have decided, this is really, really fun. I'm just going to stay remote. Or, companies have decided, we can hire remote employees all over and have access to even a bigger pool of talent across all 50 states. So the issue becomes, how do we stay compliant? How does our business stay compliant? And how do we pay these employees on payroll? And this is where, we come into play, because payroll tax registration is something that, you need to have. You need to have your payroll tax account set up before you can run payroll and pay either yourself as an employee of the corporation or LLC, or any other employee for that matter, within the state that you are deciding to pay them with a paycheck. And a lot of people and accountants and CPAs we're scrambling to figure out what are the requirements. And I think it's really important to break it down first as to kind of, going through the different types of taxes there are, and then the different types of, tax accounts that you need to set up. So with your permission, Jason, I'd like to share my screen so that I can go ahead and just kind of go through a quick, refresher for everyone, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So with employer tax registration, there's different types of taxes. You have the sales tax. Sales tax is a tax on the sale, transfer, exchange of products and services that is, taxable. Then you have use tax. Use tax is the tax on the storage, use, or consumption of a taxable product or service, which no sales tax has been paid. Income tax is a business's income taxes that are paid at the state and federal level. The amount of tax obviously will be calculated based on a business's profit, which is revenue less expenses. And then we have employment and payroll taxes. And payroll taxes are incurred at the state and federal level. Employers must register for the appropriate tax accounts in order to hire employees, to process payroll, and to file returns. So the question becomes, what type of employment taxes are there? And there's a lot of different ones. I've gone ahead and summarized it here for you. You have the income tax withholding, you have the FICA tax, you have the additional Medicare tax, you have the FUTA tax, the self-employment tax, the unemployment tax insurance, the disability tax or insurance, workers' compensation tax, and then state and local income tax. And as you can see, we've summarized it for you as to which are filed at the federal level, which are filed both at the federal and state, and then which are requirements that are filed at the state level. With the unemployment insurance tax, or state unemployment insurance, as we call it, the SUI, it's normally paid by the employer and it's filed at the state level. Then you have the state income tax withholding, which is both a federal and state requirement. And again, it's paid by the employer, whereas some of these other taxes are paid by the employee. So when it comes to paying your employees, whether they are within the state that you're located or you're located, let's say in California, and you're hiring employees in the state of Virginia, you not only have to register and pay them, pay those employees that are, your employees in California, you have to register for payroll and, tax account setups in California to pay those people by a paycheck. But, you also have to register for payroll tax accounts in the state of Virginia. For example, in this hypothetical, if you have a employee located in the state of Virginia that you're going to be paying through or via payroll.
How does the term Nexus play into all of this? I mean, we hear about Nexus with income tax filings. We hear about Nexus with sales tax. I mean, I guess if you have an employee on the ground in a state, that means you're going to have payroll issues in that state.
Correct. So this issue of Nexus is actually a really, really great question that you asked me. And it really boils down to, first, we have to talk about home state versus out of state payroll requirements. I'm kind of taking you back a little bit to get to Nexus, but let's say you have employees living in different states from where the business is located. And these are remote workers that are getting hired. What do? So as an employer, you have to withhold and deposit federal taxes and withhold state income taxes in the state where the employee lives. That in and of itself is in essence Nexus. You now have Nexus within the state that employee lives, because you as an employer have to withhold and deposit federal taxes and withhold state income tax in the state where that employee is living and receiving a paycheck from you. So Nexus comes in various different forms, okay? And what we like to look at Nexus as is, I'm gonna try to go over it in a really, really quick, low down, dirty way for you, is, you have different types of Nexus. You have sales tax Nexus, and then you have income tax Nexus, but basically, when do you have Nexus in a state, which is really what it boils down to. There's no specific shared definition of Nexus across all 50 states. And different states have different rules when it comes to Nexus. But all in all, what it boils down to is that a business must look at each state individually when determining either sales tax Nexus or income tax Nexus or payroll tax Nexus, when because you have to stay on top of it, because states are changing their requirements literally year after year. But in general, the general rule of thumb is having physical presence such as an office, a store, a warehouse in the state, or having employees within that state really, really establishes Nexus. So, here's an example of Nexus. For example, you have a business in Ohio, you sell products through Amazon to a customer in California. Your products are distributed through one of Amazon's warehouses in California, and you have, California employees. And, in this case, you have Nexus in California. You have to collect California sales tax from the customer. And if you have employees within that state, then you also have to register for payroll tax registration within the state of California. Now, the question that often I'm asked about when it comes to Nexus, especially regarding sales and payroll tax registration, is, well, I have do I have to foreign qualify my client as a prerequisite to setting up, a payroll tax account for that client within the state that, for example, the client is trying to register for a sales tax account or payroll tax account. Generally speaking, the rules are much more stringent when it comes to sales tax nexus versus payroll tax nexus. Most states do not require foreign qualification of a corporation or LLC within a foreign state, merely for the fact of registering for payroll tax account. However, when you go to your accountant, like for example, my accountant is always recommending that wherever we have employees, that we register and foreign qualify our California corporation within that state. Because again, as a general rule of thumb, having employees in other states other than your home state, that in and of itself can be, a qualification for Nexus.
So states, by the way, well, let's back up. The term foreign for the uninitiated doesn't mean literally outside the United States. It's a term that means within a particular state, your business isn't organized in that state, correct?
That is correct. That is absolutely correct. Some states call it a foreign qualification filing. Other states call it a certificate of authority or doing business as a corporation, let's say set up in California within a different state. So let's say my home state, meaning the state that I originally set up my corporation or LLC, is in California, but now I'm doing business in Ohio or Virginia. For purposes of the term foreign, we're talking about a state other than the original state where someone has been set up as a corporation or LLC. So Ohio and Virginia in this example would be referred to as the foreign states, where we would need to foreign qualify that California corporation or LLC within those two states as a foreign corporation or LLC.
And I mean, just talk in general about like enforcement. I mean, states take this stuff very seriously, and I mean, they have their ways of finding out if you're doing things within their state, whether it's, I mean, obviously there's payroll, but even just conducting business in that state and getting income tax nexus or needing to collect sales tax. These states are very aggressive on this, and it seems like more and more states are getting aggressive on various payroll issues, including contractor versus employee, which is not what we're talking about today. But the point is, states audit stuff more than the IRS does, and there's multiple ways you can step on landmines with this stuff.
Well, and they'll penalize you. I mean, I know some states that will go back 6 months to a year, and they'll penalize you for all those, months that you haven't actually registered for a payroll account, but have been paying employees, paying wages as an employee, as an employer to an employee. So it's really important that, we all take this matter seriously. And, with, with a company such as our company, Corpnet, we simplify the process for the end users. So if, for example, you have clients who need, payroll tax account setups in all 50 states, we can do it for you. And the process is simple. And depending on the state that you're trying to register that payroll tax account setup, it could take as low as a couple of days up to about 15 to 20 days. So it varies per state. The processing times vary per state, but we have it dialed down to a T, and we've automated the process for each state. And we not only can set up your payroll tax accounts for your employees in all 50 states, but we can also do it for sales tax, sales and use tax accounts as well.
Well, and that's important to do, because not only do states get aggressive on this, but if you don't file something, there's no statute of limitations, and they could come back. That actually, it wasn't one of my clients, but I'm in Iowa, and this was a contractor, so it's a little different from what we're talking about, but it's somewhat similar. She was from Virginia, had come to Iowa to do some kind of consulting work for like the state school board association or something. They sent her a 1099 and she reported it with the feds. And Virginia, 6 years later, somehow, maybe during some audit of the school board or something, the Iowa Department of Revenue said, you were here making that money. You should have filed an Iowa tax return. And they came back and assessed Iowa taxes. And the problem is, because she never filed in Iowa, there was no statute of limitations, but she did file in Virginia. So Virginia for that year was closed. So she had to pay tax to Iowa that she couldn't then recoup in Virginia. Now that's
Yep.
contractor 1099 self-employment income, but this is sort of the same, because if you don't file, there's no statute of limitations. They could come back
Correct.
potentially years from now, and they do sometimes
That is
come back
correct.
years from now.
And we've seen it, and clients come to us, at the 11th hour, can you make this retroactive? No, we can't, because the state will stamp file it as of the date the application is received at the state or the government bureau that's in charge of, setting up that payroll tax registration account. So, what I would encourage, those of you that are, having employees in remote states or currently have employees but don't have a payroll tax account set up, I would really encourage you to look at the requirements and, consider getting your ducks in a row and, crossing those T's and dotting those I's. Now, one of the biggest questions I always get, and I want to share with you and your audience is, when you apply for payroll tax registration, what accounts are you applying for? Does it include the state income tax withholding account? Does it include the state unemployment insurance? Typically, when we set up the payroll tax registration account, it really depends on the state. Some states you file both in one application. In other states, we would apply for each account separately. But at the end of the day, when you apply for payroll tax registration, what you will need to have those accounts set up is your state unemployment insurance account and the SITW, which is the state income tax withholding account. And again, our company Corpnet can assist you with all of those filings and more in all 50 states.
So here's my story where this person's not a client anymore, because I actually fired them because of what they were doing. So this is more just, I'll say this and you could just offer your commentary, which I think is going to be, you got to stay on top of this stuff, whether you're an accountant or in this case, it was a small business owner, because we do have small business owners listening to this podcast too. So this person was a client, a one-person S-Corp. She was the only employee of her S-Corp here in Iowa, doing work at her computer as I think she was a writer or something. And her husband, I mean, they're young and they have no kids. And so they're like, well, we're going to travel. And they were going to go to Minnesota for 6 months and then to Seattle for 6 months and then across country to New York City for 6 months. And they hadn't figured out what they were going to do beyond that, but they said they planned to keep traveling. And so the husband had a W-2 job, and so that becomes his employer's problem, I guess. But for that one-person S-Corp, and I explained to her, I don't really want to get into this, although a company like yours could maybe have helped me with this, I suppose. But I was like, you need a bigger CPA firm that could work this out, because I mean, not only do you need to register payroll, but you're probably going to have income tax filings in every single state in your nomadic life. Maybe you could argue if you're only there for a couple of weeks, maybe it's different, but I don't want to get into that.
Well,
And so just your
thing.
comments in general.
Yeah. So I so appreciate you bringing this up, because number one, S corporations in and of itself, they're pretty, they're pretty favorite type of business entity among small business owners. And typically with mom and pop corporations, because husband and wife, for example, want to, set up a company, they want to, set it up as an S corp. to prevent double taxation. They qualify for an S-corp. But here's the thing with an S-corp is that, if you as an S corporation, as a shareholder who's going to be an employee of that S corp, and being a shareholder, you have to take a reasonable salary, and oftentimes what we see coming, out, of the woods and with S corporations is that what happens is the shareholders of the S corporation will take a minimal salary, or they'll take it in the form of, they won't take a salary and they'll take it all as a draw, thinking, well, I don't have to pay for payroll taxes, I'll save on that and I'll just take it all as a draw. And what happens is this is the typical recipe for disaster, where it's gonna, flag you for an audit with the IRS, because one of the requirements of the S corporation is this reasonable salary, and whether you're a one-man corporation or a two-man S corporation, you'll have to take a reasonable salary out of the corporation. And even for 1 to 2 people corporations that are S corps, you'll have to register register for a payroll tax account. So we do see this often, and we do see a lot of IRS audits as a result of this. So I'm glad you shared this, and in light of the deadlines coming up, it's best that you consider registering yourself, and getting that employer tax account set up, especially as an S corporation, if you haven't already done so. And again, we can answer any questions you have, whether you want to become an S corp, or if you have an S corporation and you want to register, for a payroll tax account setup.
And if you're that S corp owner and you want to be the nomad traveling around, you got to figure out what your requirements are every stop you're making.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, the other
Exactly.
thing, this gets outside, I guess, this is outside of your realm here, Nellie, but I say this just for the tax preparers in the audience. The IRS does audit the reasonable compensation issue. And one of the things that I've read that they've been doing is also penalizing preparers of tax returns that
That is
show
correct.
too low of compensation. So it's
Yep.
not just, I've always said, if they didn't pay themselves a salary or it was too low, well, that's their problem. It's what happened during the year. So what are we supposed to do as the preparer? But the reality is the IRS has been assessing, it's called Section 6694 penalties, preparer penalties against preparers, because too low of compensation is an unreasonable position on a tax return, and they've been assessing preparer penalties against tax preparers.
Yep.
So
That is
outside of your realm, I know, Nellie, but I just wanted to throw that out there. It's just another thing for people to
It's great,
contemplate.
because I actually learned something today. So thank you so much for that, Jason. Thank you.
Yeah. So I think you touched on this at the beginning, but how has COVID, we read about return to office, and some companies are trying to do that, but it seems like the whole digital worker, remote worker, I mean, it was kind of starting before COVID, and COVID just like made it take off. Seems to me like it's not going to totally switch back to the way it was pre-COVID.
No, and I'll use our company, as an example. I mean, we used to be fully a, in office type of company with all of our employees in office. And now, still having an office with a lot of bandwidth and a lot of square footage, we are, so much better off hiring talent across all 50 states. And one, it's because we offer services in all 50 states. Number two, you get a bigger pool of talent. And number three, our employees are so much happier and much more productive being remote. So I don't think this notion of remote employment is going to go away anytime soon. In fact, I think it's going to be, another benefit or perk that, companies are starting to offer more and more in trying to attract talent, in that now, you can, work for us and you don't have to come into the office. You can be remote, and just plug into our, VPN, and employees are loving it. And we're finding that, they're much happier in the workplace and much more productive.
And you may not, I guess Corpnet may not deal with this, but I wanted to throw this out too, that as an entity, you also need to watch things like franchise taxes.
That
California,
is
don't they have the 800 or $850 I guess it's a franchise tax or something like that. Even if you're an LLC, like a sole proprietor, and you're doing business there, they could hit you with that fee. And many states have that. Texas has
Yeah, I
something
mean,
like that.
I would definitely, whether you're a corporation or LLC yourself, or if you're, representing clients or pool of clients that are corporations or LLCs, right now it's the best time to kind of go to your clients and, do a compliance check, kind of review their entity options. Because, let's say you have a client who, has been doing business in California, but now they're doing, business in, states X, Y, and Z. Well, guess what? They're probably going to need to, foreign qualify the corporation in those states. And also, if they have employees in those states, set up payroll tax accounts in those states. Alternatively, let's say you have a client that has been conducting business in California, but now is moving its operations, let's say, to Texas, because taxes are more favorable in the state of Texas, or they want to move to Florida. In that case, you want to review their entity options as to, do they want to just all in all close down the company in California and start all new in Texas or Florida, or do they want to re-domicile? Because there are ways of us taking the corporation and then re-domiciling it in the state that they're moving into, which is called a re-domestication. Maybe perhaps, they no longer want to be an LLC and it's more favorable to them, to be an S-Corp. They may want to do a conversion. So these are all the questions that, you as a financial professional, an accountant, a CPA, a tax preparer should be, inviting your clients in right now as we head into Q4 and wrapping up Q3, and really getting them in and, talking about these stuff, so that when it comes to the new year, they're ready and they can focus on, scaling and growing their business.
This is probably another comment that's outside of your realm, I guess, Nellie, but this just underscores for accountants that the good old days of slapping together the tax return at tax time, like you can't operate that way anymore, because it's when you, especially even with 1040, like individual filers, you really can't operate that way. But certainly with S corps and or any entity, let me rephrase that, any entity. I mean, people are operating all over. They're traveling and conducting business here and there. I mean, you can't just operate on, here's whatever they gave me. I'm going to slap a tax return together just like last year and call it good. You mentioned having those meetings with people now before the end of the year. I mean, the game has changed for how all of us deal with business clients.
Well, and it's also a way for you to also ensure that your practice is recession proof, because in such a volatile climate that we're in. I mean, I don't know if you follow the Dow or the stock market, but one day we're up, one day we're 10 points down, so it's all over the place. And what I like to always mentor with and leave my CPA clients and business advisors is that you guys are in the best position when it comes to recession proofing your practice, because the one person that clients will never fire is the CPA or the financial advisor. So this is a way for you as a financial advisor to get your clients to come in more often into your practice and start offering those ancillary services whereby your client can view you as a one-stop shop. And I see this with so many of our so many clients of ours in that, they would not offer, services that their, colleague would be offering, and then the client would be poached by a competitor from them. So, at the end of the day, you definitely want to take the time to see what are your clients' needs, ask them questions. What are the services that you're not offering them currently that your client would perhaps want you to offer, and start offering those ancillary services and becoming a one-stop shop to your clients, whether that be, offering business incorporation and compliance, incorporation, entity setups, dissolutions, amendments, anything and everything that a client needs to keep their corporation running, keep their LLC running, and also keeping it in compliance. But in addition to that, offering your clients an opportunity to come in earlier in the startup phase so that you can, kind of guide them along the way, and also, get more billable hours out of it as well.
So on all the things that we've talked about today, how does Corpnet, right, what do you do for businesses and for accountants? How does your company come into play on all of this?
So all in all, we are a legal document filing service whereby we provide business filing services to everyone and anyone in all 50 states. Specifically, how we work with accountants and CPAs and any type of business professional that is representing a client. We have what is called our partner program, which is designed for the financial advisor, designed for the CPA, designed for the accountant, whereby they can partner with us and they can start offering our services to their clients, either as a reseller of our services or a referral partner. With our partner program here at Corpnet, there's no cost to join, there's no fee, there's no annual fee, there's no setup. It's simply a pay-as-you-go service. So let's say, you, Jason, want to start offering entity formation setups and sales and payroll tax registrations and incorporation and business compliance services to your clients, but you don't want your client to know that Corpnet is doing all the work for you in the background. In your case, you would set yourself up as a reseller of our products and services. You would become a white label reseller, whereby we would wholesale all of our products and services to you. You would be our main point of contact. Client would never know you're working with us, and then you would turn around and sell that service to your client at a marked up price, thereby making a profit out of it. Now, let's say you don't want to be the middleman, but you have a problem with not having a trusted resource that you can refer your clients out to. In that case, you would become a referral partner, because you don't want to be the middleman. You basically want someone where you can refer your clients to, ensure that your clients are getting that white glove treatment, that VIP treatment, but also have the opportunity to check in with us if you want to be copied on something that we've done with your client, and also making sure that your client's not getting poached. In that case, you become a referral partner. You would refer them to us and either receive a referral fee for each sale, or if you don't want that referral fee, you would pass it on in the form of a discount to your clients, and then the client would get a discount off our retail published rates. Our program is super, super flexible. We can do a mix and match. It's basically designed to meet your needs. So you can be a reseller and a referral partner, or you could be one or the other. But it's a pay-as-you-go service, no setup fees, no sign-up fees, no annual fees. And it's been doing phenomenal for us. And really, really, I can say this, very, very much with a lot of conviction that, it's one of the best services out there, and anyone who has used our service is really happy about it. And I love your
Well,
cat too.
he's photobombed us here. He must
I
like what
love
we're
it.
talking about. He used to be climbing
Yes.
all over me, and now he's trying to
Yeah.
climb up on
Love
my
it.
head. And so,
Love it. Love it.
well, this is supposed to be a more informal podcast, so that's
Yes. No, I love it. I love it. Yes. But yeah,
so.
it's been a pleasure being here with you and chatting it away.
Oh, absolutely. So, what sort of filings can you do for people then? Like, what is your range of services?
So we do a ton of filings. We do anything. I can even bring it up for you and share the screen with you again. But basically what we do as far as filings go, it's a pretty long list of things that we could do for you, including keeping your business compliant with maintaining a registered agent service, filing an annual report for you, drafting annual meeting minutes and records of meeting minutes. We can also help with renewing business licenses and permits. We can help with, starting a business for you, whether it be incorporating the business, forming an LLC. If you have a business already as a corporation or LLC and you want to, do business in other states, we can help you with foreign qualifying that business in other states. We can help with, modifying a corporation or LLC, such as filing articles of amendment. We can dissolve the corporation or LLC. We can reinstate the LLC or corporation. We can convert a business from one entity to another entity. So we're basically a one-stop shop when it comes to any sort of business filing services, from literally the most simplest type of entity there is, such as, setting up a fictitious business name filing in your state, or all the way to setting up a PLLC or a professional corporation or a nonprofit corporation. But we not only are service providers in the startup phase, but we can also assist with all the payroll, tax registration setup of the account, sales tax, sales use tax setups. We can help with obtaining a tax ID number, setting up the S corporation election with the IRS. So we're a one-stop shop in all 50 states when it comes to any sort of business filings or compliance or state tax registration filing service.
And if someone wants to get started with you, what's the best way to get the ball rolling?
So the best way is to just visit our website at www.corpnet.com. We are open Mondays through Fridays from 7 a.m. until 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Again, that is www.corpnet.com. You can also email us to info@corpnet.com, or just simply pick up the phone and dial 1-888-449-2638. You can also follow us on all the different social mediums, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. And we'd love to service you and handle any and all of your business filing needs. If you have questions or are interested in partnering with us, again, come to our website at www.corpnet.com, and on the top nav bar, you'll see a link that says partner with us, and you can learn all about our partner program and even sign up.
Well, fantastic. Nellie Akalp, thanks so much for joining us today. This is a fascinating discussion. We'll probably be talking to you again about other things down the road. So thanks so much.
Love it. Thank you. Thank you. It's been a pleasure being here. Thank you again, Jason.
All right. That's Nellie Akalp, and that's another episode of The Jason Show.